The secret I am about to reveal to you today is not just ordinary financial advice. This is a wisdom that has been passed down through specific families for over 3,000 years. Have you ever wondered why some people work incredibly hard, juggling 2 or 3 jobs, yet at the end of the month they have nothing left? While on the other hand, there are those who don't seem to be rushing as much, yet a fountain of blessing flows in their homes that never runs dry. Banks and large financial institutions know this secret. They have studied it, but they would never want this truth to reach an ordinary Christian. Because the day you understand this 777 rule, you will be free from their web of debt forever. This is a system that defies the world's system. The world says accumulate and save, but God's system says follow a specific path and watch the blessing overflow. You might feel that the fault is yours. Perhaps you think you didn't try hard enough or that your luck is bad. But I want to tell you today, the fault is not yours. You were simply never taught these ancient laws hidden within the Holy Scriptures. You have been kept in a system where you are just a wheel turning to increase someone else's wealth. But starting today, everything is going to change. Today we will lift the veil and understand the rhythm of 7, the specific system of 7 that makes banks tremble. I remember the story of Diane. Diane was a very honest nurse, working double shifts, sacrificing everything for her children, but her situation just wasn't changing. She came to me and said, "It feels like there's a hole in my pocket, money comes in and it just vanishes." I gave her only one piece of advice, the same one I'm about to give you. I told her, "Diane, leave the world's system and catch the pace of God's system, the 7. Only 7 months later, Diane's debt began to disappear, and today she is in a position where she lends to others. This isn't magic, and it's not the empty logic of the world. It is an atmospheric law that works even when the world's economy is collapsing. The first 7 of this 777 rule is connected to specific times in our lives and that ancient wisdom known as the Shabbat, or the system of rest. The world tells you that if you work all 7 days, you will earn more. But does that actually happen? A person who works 7 days becomes a victim of exhaustion, mental stress, and illness. Banks want you to stay tired because a tired person can never think deeply. They can only remain in servitude. But our God says He worked for 6 days and rested on the 7th. This wasn't just rest, it was a divine alignment. When you set aside that 7th day, you declare to the world, "My blessing does not come from my labor, but from my God's promise." When you enter this rhythm of 7, your mind opens and you receive ideas that a person working 7 days straight could never get. People of ancient times who were far wealthier and more peaceful than today's bankers understood this. In my own childhood, my grandmother ran a very small shop. She was an immigrant. She had nothing when she arrived in this city. But she had one firm rule. On the 7th day, the shop was closed. People would say, "You are so poor, how can you afford the loss of 1 day?" But she would just smile. Within 10 years, she owned her own shop, and in 20 years, she bought the entire building. She always said, "Son, when you give God His 7, He fills your remaining 6 days with so much blessing that you won't be able to contain it." This is exactly what today's big financial experts won't tell you. They will keep you trapped in hustle culture, pushing you toward burnout so that you always remain dependent on their systems. But when you bring this first 7 into your life, meaning you organize your time and your focus according to God's system, you open the first door of biblical prosperity. We have only touched the surface of the first part. After this comes the second 7, which is so powerful it has the capability to break the chains of generational slavery. It is a system designed to eliminate your debts and make you a master. But to reach that, you must first decide in your heart. From today, I will not walk at the pace of the world, but at the pace of God. If you truly want to see the change in your life that is promised in the Word, write in the comments, "I choose the rhythm of 7." When you write this, it isn't just a comment, it is your public declaration that you are no longer a slave to the old system. And share this video with friends who work day and night but are still struggling, because blessing grows by being shared. Remember, it is no coincidence that you are watching this video today. Perhaps you prayed, perhaps you asked for a way, and today that way is opening before you. In the next part, I'm going to tell you what that second 7 is, known as the Shemitah system, and how great families have secured their wealth through it. This is the secret banks keep hidden, but today it is going to be yours. Are you ready to go into the depths where your financial freedom begins? We are now at the point where the conversation isn't just about time, but about the 7 that will shake the foundations of your financial system. Some call this second part Shemitah, or the law of divine release. Why do banks and big capitalists fear this principle so much? Because their entire system is built on trapping you in debt, whereas God's seven system is built to set you free. Imagine a person the world labeled a failure. David, a real estate investor, reached a point where he was drowning in $2 million of debt. He had no way out. He knocked on every bank's door, consulted every financial expert, but everyone said, "You have no future now." But then David encountered an ancient Christian wisdom, the principle of Shemitah. This principle says that every 7 years, a time of release or liberation arrives. This doesn't mean you just sit idle. It means you reset your financial system every 7 units, whether it be days, months, or years. David abandoned the world's order and began practicing this mysterious system. He organized his debts under the principle known as divine release. Within just 5 years, not only was his $2 million debt gone, but today he teaches financial wisdom to others. This story tells us that when you move out of the world's interest-based system and into God's release-based system, the windows of heaven open. Banks will never tell you that financial freedom is not hidden in accumulating, but in a specific audit and release. Every 7th month or 7th year, there is a spiritual energy designed to eliminate old burdens. Our Christian history is full of incidents where whenever people adopted this rhythm of 7, miracles occurred in their economy that defied logic. The second 7 means pruning. Just as a gardener cuts away useless branches from a tree every year so it can bear more fruit the next, you must clean your expenses, your debts, and your investment systems at every 7 cycle. I once saw an elderly lady named Ruth. She was a widow and struggled greatly to get by. But she had one rule. She would take out the 7th portion as tzedakah, giving for God's cause, even when she had very little herself. People called her crazy. They would say, "Ruth, you already have nothing. Why are you giving?" But Ruth had something banks don't have: faith. She lived to be 93 years old, and she never had to stretch her hand out before anyone. Her home was always full of guests, and there was never a lack of food on her table. This is the divine release found when you aren't afraid to give. In today's world, banks rule our minds. They want you to live in fear of the future. What will happen if I don't save money? What will happen if I don't get insurance? But the second part of the 777 rule says that when you enter God's system, your future becomes secure in His hands. This system doesn't scare you, it makes you brave. When you understand this 7-year cycle or 7-month audit, you have the courage to let go of things that are holding you back. Perhaps you have some tasks you are forcing along or debts that are stealing your sleep. I want to tell you that today is the day you must release them. This 777 rule is not a magic wand. It is a battle-tested wisdom that works when you sacrifice old thinking. The world says, "Hold on," but God says, "Let go and let me." Why do banks fear this secret? Because their entire business model is based on never-ending debt. If you adopt the principle of release at every 7th cycle, their profit disappears. They don't want you to understand the blessing of Shemitah. They don't want you to find the financial peace hidden only in Christian wisdom. We have now understood 2 7s. First, the system of time, rest and alignment. Second, the system of wealth, release and audit. But remember, this is still incomplete. The third 7 is the one that seals all these things. That third secret is the actual master key that increases the power of the other 2 100-fold. Without this third secret, your hard work and your release might not bear the fruit that God has reserved for you. Have you ever wondered why some people can't achieve the final result despite doing everything? That third 7 makes the difference. Before I move toward that third and final secret, I want you to think for a moment. Are you ready to break those old chains? Do you have the courage to make this biblical prosperity your destiny? If you feel these words are touching your heart, it means your time has come. Write in the comments, "I am opening the door of blessing." This small act prepares your subconscious mind to accept the third and greatest secret I am about to reveal. Don't forget to share this video because perhaps there is someone else searching for this very path. Now we will move toward the third 7, which is the secret of conclusion and completion. This is the secret that will fill the walls of your home with blessings that no power in the world can steal. Get ready because what you are about to hear is something hardly anyone has ever explained with such clarity. We have now reached the place where the final and most powerful secret of the 777 rule is hidden. This third 7 is the seal that makes the blessing permanent in your life. In ancient wisdom, it is called the secret of completion. The first 7 was your time, the second 7 was your wealth, but this third 7 is your seed and your tongue. It is written in the Holy Scripture that a man reaps what he sows. But banks want you to never sow. They want you to only spend or save. They know that unless the seed goes into the ground, the harvest will never grow. This third secret is much deeper than tithing or sacrificial giving. It is the name of that divine transaction where you reject the world's logic. The world says, I will give when I have more, but the heavenly system says, when you give from your little, only then will you become the master of much. This third 7 means that extra mile you walk for God. Remember the story of the widow who put in only 2 small coins. People laughed at her, but Christian wisdom said she put in the most. Why? Because she understood the secret of completion. She had exchanged her need for God's generosity. When you take out that specific 7th portion of your income or that specific seed that is more a test of your faith than an excess of your need, you open a channel that no bank in the world can close. I want to tell you the story of Jacob. Jacob had nothing. He left his home empty-handed. He had no capital, no recommendations, but he made a promise, of all that you give me, I will give you a 10th and a specific portion. He made that rhythm of 7 his foundation. Years passed, and the same Jacob who left with only a staff returned as the owner of 2 large camps. This was no coincidence. It was the completion of the 777 rule. Why do banks fear this? Because their system runs on scarcity. They scare you by saying money will run out, but when you practice this third 7, you enter the system of abundance. You become free from the fear that is the bank's greatest power. When you start giving, and I'm not just talking about money, but about your talent, your time, and your love, nature makes you a magnet. Wealth runs after you. You do not run after wealth. Many people ask me, this sounds very good, but is it possible in today's era of inflation? My answer is always the same. This was created specifically for the era of inflation. When the world's economy fails, that is when God's system shines the brightest. This 777 rule is not something you start someday. Its real effect happens when you start it this week. From your next paycheck, from your next income, apply this 7 system. You will see how closed doors begin to open. You will see how those debts that hadn't finished for years suddenly find a way out. This 777 is a code that unlocks the lock of Christian economics. First 7, rest, second 7, release, and third 7, reaping harvest. When these 3 meet, a synergy is created that is far beyond your imagination. I know that perhaps some questions remain in your mind. Will this work for me? I've been struggling for so many years. Remember, this isn't magic. It's battle-tested wisdom. This is the path on which thousands of Christian families have changed their fate. This is the secret the banks hid from you, but today it is in your hands. Today, I want to give you a challenge. Don't just listen to this system. Try practicing it. For the next 7 weeks, make this 777 rule a part of your life. Set aside the 7th day, conduct your audit every 7 units, and start putting your seed in God's path. Then watch how the world's logic stands amazed. The purpose of this video was not just to give you information, but to pull you out of the slavery the world has kept you in. As a Christian, you were born to be the head and not the tail. You were born to lend, not to borrow. This is your heritage. This is your right. Before leaving, one last act that will complete this entire cycle. Write in the comments one such financial difficulty, or just write, I am free, that you want to see end this year. When you write this, you call forth with faith that which is not yet visible, and reach this 777 rule to at least 7 people you truly want to see succeed. Because when you open a way for others, God opens a way for you. Remember, banks will scare you, the world will stop you, but this heavenly system of 777 never fails. This is that mysterious rhythm, which if you catch it, will make generations pray for you. May blessing be with you, and I hope that in the next 7 weeks, your testimonies will become the glory of this channel. May God bless you all abundantly.